Hey everyone, welcome back to the Expedition Revival Project. In this episode, we're going to be doing interior reassembly. In the last episode, we got the carpet most of the way in, as you can see by the pile of trimmings back there. This first little segment here is going to be kind of chaotic because it's really cold and windy outside, and in order to keep everything on schedule here, this needs to be drivable by tomorrow. And today's Christmas, which I hope you had a good Christmas. I did. I didn't really want to sit inside and do nothing. I wasn't feeling like it. This project's hanging over my head and it's bothering me, so I'm going to try and get her done. But all I'm going to do for right now, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to bolt the driver's seat back in, put the center console in, hook the shifter up, and then get the trim back in on that side, and maybe do everything the same on the passenger side to go ahead and get this drivable just enough so I can run it into town and have, next week to put tires on it, because the place that I'm going to do that at, it's only open on weekdays. So, I can put the rest of the interior back in this coming weekend over the new year, but this thing's got to be ready to go by January 3rd. That is the goal. So this might be a little rushed. If I repeat myself, I'm sorry. I'm going to try and give you as much detail as I can so that if you're looking to reassemble this, or mainly if you want to disassemble it, you know what you're getting into. So I'm going to work on this. I'll try and get the camera out if I remember, but just bear with me, and I'll help you guys out as best I can with this video. So let's get going. All right, so step one, I just wanted to drop this in real quick because it's important. Getting the center console back in, this wiring harness is important right here because it connects into everything else, and it also, that gray connector right there is what plugs into your shifter. And for some reason, unsurprisingly, this vehicle throws a fit if it does not detect that it's in park. It doesn't like it. Stuff doesn't want to work then, like the end gate and all that doesn't open. That's one of the disadvantages to this being an Eddie Bauer trim, is that it's got all the fancy stuff on it. But the fancy stuff doesn't want to work if everything isn't working, if that makes any sense. So to put this back in, the hardest part is getting these shoved back in. This is what runs your rear climate control and your rear power point. That's for your rear climate control switch. And this runs your rear power point and the console. So I'm just going to get that shoved back in there and get the console on. It only bolts. There's only 4 bolts that hold it on. There's supposed to be little covers that go over them. I'm not worried about that right now. This thing's going to look very, very crude for a little bit. But like I said, I'll get the rest of the interior assembled this weekend, hopefully in better weather, at least less wind and precipitation. So I'm going to get the center console in and hooked up, and then we'll move on to the next little step. Okay, center console in. I will point out that back in here, see if I can get you into where you can see them. Or maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot. Nope, they're back there. Okay, right there, down in that channel. I don't think you're going to be able to see them. But right down in here, there are 2 bolts that screw in and hold this whole thing on. And then, of course, there are 2 of these lower bolts on each side that also hold everything in. I got a little crazy with the carpet. I mean, it's not great. If I had to do it again, I would do it differently. I thought it would also hold this in place a little bit better. But by the time we get the seat in, I think it's going to be okay. And then, of course, you need to plug the big shifter in, tighten down your bolt to plug it in all the way. Plug that in. Make sure that your shifter's hooked up here. This is looking a little worse for wear, but this shifter is probably going to get replaced or reworked before long. And then your shift cable snaps in here. To get it off, there's a little tab right there that you have to kind of pull back that way, and then this will lift up. And then the end of the shift cable snaps onto a stud that is attached to the shift lever, but it's on this side and I can't show it to you. So to get it out, take these bolts loose, get that connector loose. That should afford you enough access to the shifter to get this out of the slot. And then you can tilt it this way. You can like grab your lever and move it towards the passenger side, be on the driver's side, and then you should be able to take a screwdriver and pop that off without much issue. So now that we've got everything hooked up shifter-wise, and also I put this panel back in, so now that's all nice and fancy. Just be careful with it because it's real thin right here. You don't want to break it. Now that I have all that put back together, I think what we're going to do is throw in the bezel for the radio and hook this monstrosity up. Now, the important things are this and this, because this is what runs your climate control. These are what runs your message center buttons, your hazard light buttons and stuff that sit up here. The radio stuff, somebody else messed with it. I don't know what they did, but that right there is atrocious and completely unacceptable. That is so amateur, it's not even funny. And I'm not gonna mess with it right now, but this stuff here will get hooked up too. Yeah, we'll just hook everything up. I've got the panel there, and just so everyone's clear, the instrument control, or the HVAC control unit, this piece right here, I had that out of there, completely disassembled and cleaned because it was filthy. So I will get this snapped back into place. Should be pretty straightforward, but in case I'm wrong, we're just going to go ahead and be a little careful, but I'll get that snapped back in. All right, once you've got everything hooked up and snapped into place here, you can carefully slide this at an angle and just kind of work it into place, and it should snap right in. Now, one thing I will note, if yours has the chrome trim, if you haven't disassembled this, and this has that chrome trim that goes around it, that is attached to the shifter, and it is very, very difficult to get off. So if you break it, don't feel bad, because I don't know how you're supposed to get it off without breaking it. That piece, I think, is available. I have so many part numbers to go through on this. I'm not sure if that piece is actually available for sale. If the thing I'm looking at on the website to buy is talking about something else that looks similar, or if that trim piece is actually part of the shifter, I'm not sure. I'm also not sure if you understood any of what I just said, but hopefully I'll clarify it later. It is not necessary to the operation of the vehicle. It should, in theory, operate just as is. So, the next thing that I'm going to do, I believe, is, yeah, this just all snaps into place here. So I think the next thing I want to do is get that in, and probably the sill plate for the driver's door. I think. I'm gonna go warm up for a second because it's kind of cold. I also need to get that kick panel back in. The carpet may have to be trimmed some more through here, so I probably ought to do the sill plates and all that next. I don't know. Let me think about it. But the center console's in, so that's awesome. Seats are not difficult at all. There's just 4 bolts. Keep in mind that the bolt closest to the console in the rear is a different size than the other 3. Don't ask me why. It just is. So knowing that, then, you should be able to put the seats back in. I mean, all this stuff plugs in underneath. This is the passenger side. It's a little bit different. None of this is going to be plugged in because that runs the dual climate control seat module. That needs to be worked on. So we'll see what happens there. But, yep, coming right along. It comes together pretty quickly. Once you actually can start assembling stuff, it already looks nicer in here, I'd say. So let me strategize on what to do next, and we will move forward. Okay, it is several days later. The driver's seat, console, and everything is in, and this is the bare minimum that you can have in to drive it. It was drivable. Got it in town, got new tires on it, mounted and balanced by yours truly. Brand spanking new lug nuts on each wheel. I need to put the hubcaps back on. But got all that done, changed all the filters, changed the oil. Oil pressure's a lot better after changing the oil because I used 530 instead of 520. Someone's going to throw a fit about that. I don't care. So now we're back on the interior reassembly. So where we left off, well, I got in a hurry and I forgot to get the camera out. But obviously, the last thing you guys saw was a console in. I put the seat in, I put the pillar in there, and the sill plate on the driver's side.
So the issue I ran into, I screwed up the carpet. There's going to be a video. I'm going to make a quick video here issuing some corrections about the carpet and stuff like that, because I did mess some things up. There's also supposed to be a trim piece that goes around here that I completely forgot to put back in before I put the console on. I don't know if I can shove it in with the console in there. I don't think so. We'll see. I'll do that off camera. So today, the goal is to finish reassembling this more or less. I'm going to put the passenger front seat in, hook it up. That's not complicated. Of course, the sill plates and stuff will go in. This trim piece with the oh shit handle will go in. What I want to talk about right now, though, because a lot of this is pretty easy to figure out, you know, when you're taking it apart. This piece right here, to put it back on, what I'm doing, once I get my seatbelt threaded through here and bolted in on the bottom and oriented how I want, I essentially just bring it up like this and kind of get it shoved up in there, and then just strike the bottom of it with my fist to shove it over and get it more or less in place. But the problem is, you got to keep in mind, you've got holes to cut in your carpet there and like right here and here, because is they up here? Well, I mean, the sill plates fasten into this wiring harness channel. As you can see, there are provisions for that. But also, you can see it a little bit better on the rear here. And this is why I think I messed up the carpet. I know I did on the other side, but you've also got these spots right here where stuff snaps into, you know. And so you have to keep all that in mind. Cut notches out for that, which is not a big deal. The second row seats, I mean, there's not much else to cut there. They'll go in without much problem. You can always cut more out, and they'll go in and help hold this down. These rear pieces will have to go in before we can do the second row sill plates that go in these doors, but they snap into place. Not hard to do. What I might go ahead and do, though, because the seat belts in the rear, I'll go ahead and show you. The seat belts in the rear here, on the bottoms in particular, are quite disgusting. So I think what I'm going to do before I start putting all this stuff back here in is I'm actually going to come in here and pull that bolt right there, take the seat belts out, and we'll get them kind of scrubbed clean. That way we can put everything back in at once. So for now, I guess I probably won't be doing any third row stuff, but we'll at least get the passenger front seat back in, and then there is no shortage of other little things to do. You know, I could put the glove box back in, I could throw that panel back in, stuff like that. And there's no shortage of that. So most of this is just really self-explanatory to do. It all snaps in to place as easy as it comes out. So if you're disassembling your vehicle, you just have to keep in mind on where your snaps are at, and get in there with your trim tool, your screwdriver, just gently as you can, pry this stuff apart. And if it feels like you have to force it really hard, you're probably doing it wrong. So you got to keep all that in mind. But I'm going to start assembling this. I'll bring you along the way for extra highlights. I would like to go in depth on this, but to be honest with you, I don't really know that it's necessary. That's the biggest reason. Second biggest reason, I don't know if you can tell by my voice, I'm not feeling the best. I'm not feeling bad enough I can't be out here, of course. You know, sitting inside's not going to make me feel better. But I'm not feeling the absolute greatest. So I'll just stop in with you guys as we go along, point out some things here and there, and we'll get this thing put back together, get it looking nice. Guess what's behind door number 1? Ta-da! One seat in. Pretty simple to do. There's just, well, hang on, let me get you a little bit better angle. There's just kind of 4 bolts that hold that bottom plate in, and then there you go. Your seat's in, and it latches back here. I've not got the other one in yet. Oh man, it just occurred to me, I probably should show you how that stupid lower seat trim goes on. I should. I really don't want to. I mean, I really don't. But this is supposed to be a visual aid to help people understand what they're getting into if they want to do this. So I guess I'll suck it up and do it. Let me accumulate the pieces and I'll give you a rough idea of what it looks like. But I'm not actually putting it back on right now, because it's a pain in the butt and I don't really want to screw with it. So give me just a minute. All right, let's talk about the lower seat trim on the 2007 Ford Expedition. Now, it has been, we don't need that penny in the way, it's junk. I guarantee you it's worth more on the ground than it is in my pocket. But anyway, this seat trim that covers the base of the second row seats, it's been a little bit since I took it apart, but you're basically going to start with this piece, right? And this is going to get real fun real quick. So I'm going to see if I can remember this all exactly or close enough. So we've got this piece here, right? And then we have this, which is supposed to snap into place, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not putting this on. This is going in a box, and I'll put it back on and stuff when we actually fix the carpet and do all the seat covers. So the next thing you have to do is take this piece off. Now keep in mind, the way I'm showing this to you, this is the rear. This should be the rear. No, this is the front here is what you're seeing. Yeah, should be, I think. So anyway, you want to do all that, right? And then you've also got that special piece, which goes right back here and covers the whole thing up. And you might think, okay, well, that's not too bad. But, oh, wait, there's more. It gets more special, if you can believe it. So this, okay, we have this piece, which is super cool because this just covers the base, the square base, right? You have up top, if I can find the right pieces here real quick. Hang on. Is that, aha, I think this is it. No, that's wrong. What about this one? Yeah, okay. So you have a piece that is going to look like this, kind of, and you've got another piece that's going to look like this. They correspond to each side, and they snap together, okay? Now, what these bad boys do, and I think in the vehicle they're actually like this, I believe, but what this does is it goes up and clamps on, and it covers the stuff that's a little further up above the seat base. Okay, so this is the seat base trim right here. This goes above it. So to get it apart, it sucks, and you're probably going to break stuff because not only is it held in by these snaps, but it's also held in by these stupid little plastic fingers. This is the male end, this is the female end. And I'm sorry, but trying to get this stuff apart without breaking it is a Herculean task. And if you end up breaking it, I don't think you should feel that bad because I ripped this apart. I was mad. Oh, man, I was mad trying to take this stuff apart because it sucks. So that's, you know, now you still might be thinking at this point, okay, that's the seat base and the piece that goes right above it. That doesn't seem too bad. Oh, yeah, but we're not done because, see, here's the other cool thing about this. I love that Ford did this. They're so smart. I love Ford so much right now. You see this right here? 3 guesses as to what this is. I'm not going to give you time to guess 3 times. This covers... Hang on, I'm just going to take you over there and show you. That big trim piece covers this side right here and hides all that stuff where your seatbelt is at. Okay? So, knowing that then, you might be like, all right, so it snaps together like the other pieces, right? I mean, this just kind of like snaps on there. This is actually for the other side. This is for the passenger side. They correspond. You get the idea. I'm just giving you kind of a visual aid here. Yeah, these snap together, except for one screw that they put right here. There's a screw that you have to get out that holds these together, and you can access it from the back side. So when you're looking at the seat, if you open the driver's side door and you're looking at the passenger seat, you're going to see this, right? You have to go underneath the passenger seat on the inside to get that screw out. I believe it's a Phillips, okay? One thing I did forget to mention that I will mention now, on these seat bases, there's 4 little screws. Make sure you can see it all. There are 4 little screws. They're Torx-headed screws. And you might be wondering, why'd Ford do that? That seems like, that makes it a bigger pain in the ass. Well, you'd be exactly right, and I'd give you a prize, but your prize is you get to take this apart. Because I'm not going to do it for you. You can take this apart. That's your prize for figuring out how stupid that was. But back to this. So you've got that cover. Okay. We'll add that to the pile. So to recap, we've got a seat base, we've got an upper seat base, and we've got the outside seat belt cover, right? But we're still not done. Oh, this is why I'm so excited. You guys should be so excited right now. This is the greatest thing maybe ever. See, you got all these little Mickey Mouse pieces down here, okay? See if I can actually find the right one. Some of these got launched. I'm not going to lie to you. By the time I got done disassembling the trim on these seats, I was so stinking mad, I could hardly think straight. But the point is, there's only a million of these. Some combination of these little doodads goes around the bottom of the seats on the backside. So those latches that go into those anchors on the bottom, that's what these are covering. Well, they're held in with screws and the stupid little plastic snaps. So they hold together with the plastic snaps. And then Ford was like, hey, let's put some screws through there to make sure it stays in place. And then, yeah, and you're probably thinking right now, hey, I bet that's a pain in the ass to get out. Well, you'd be right again. And again, your prize is that you get to take this stuff out, probably without breaking it, because I don't know if you can tell or not, but I broke it. Anybody that says plastic trim pieces aren't tough, well, some of them aren't. Some of them are that real stiff, brittle plastic, and some of them are this stiff but sort of flexible plastic. That's what this stuff is. And let me tell you something. If you can rip this apart with your man hands, you got to be pretty damn strong. Or just really mad, which is what I was. So that's your seat trim for your second row seats. Now, what's the rest of this? I think this is for the front, actually. I think this is for the front row seat. Yeah, it is, because I know where these go. So this stuff's for the front row seat. That's pretty easy to get off because it just pulls forward. I think this is also for the front row seat, and it lifts up. So, I don't know. It was disgusting when I took it apart. It's a lot cleaner now. But, yeah, so this is what, all this just to cover up the bottom of those second row seats. It's ridiculous. And you can see now why I'm not going to be putting it back in. So that's, that should give you enough of an idea on how it comes apart that if you want to do it, you can. Good luck. And if you tear it up, I have no clue if you can buy this stuff or not. I haven't even crossed the part numbers, and I don't have the time or the energy to do it right now. So you're kind of on your own unless I get a wild hair and I do it before I upload the video to the YouTube. So now that we have all that said, let's go back over to the Expedition here. I might actually cover like that, but honestly, no one's going to freaking care. The carpet ended up half-assed. I thought it was nice for a little bit, and then stuff did not work out how I wanted, and so it's not, the greatest. What I'm going to do right now is get the driver's side second row seat in, cut the carpet back here, get everything kind of lined up. I'll put my seat belts back in on each side. I think they're dry and ready to go. And if I can do that, then I'll throw these big trim pieces in here, and we'll really start making this thing look a little more complete. We'll see if we can't finish it up today, because I don't really want to mess with it tomorrow. So exciting. So very much excitement. Yeah. All right, well, I forgot to turn the camera on for some stuff. I have these panels in on both sides. As you can see, there's the other second row seat I need to put in. Got everything hooked up there. You know what? While I'm sitting here and talking to you, might as well tighten this one up, right? And we'll be very careful. We'll be very careful not to hit the glass, because that would be bad. So, nothing much has happened. That's probably tight enough. Nothing much has happened. These big panels take up a lot of space, but they go on pretty easy. There's essentially snaps back here, a couple of crappy ones there, and a few over here. And you get them all lined up. You do have to pull the sill plates. Just pop them up, put these back panels on, and you can put everything back in. Other than that, it's all pretty well self-explanatory. So, Excuse me, there's no need to go into it in great detail, as is the case with most of this. But I will say that compared to the Excursion right there, this Expedition does not have the build quality. You can tell the materials are thinner, they're not as well fastened. I'm kind of disappointed, not gonna lie. And that's a 7-year difference, and that Excursion, now look, I get the Expedition is based on the F-150 frame, and the Excursion was based on the Super Duty frame, so that Excursion there has the same frame and suspension, more or less, as that pickup and that pickup. To a lesser extent, this pickup, more so with this, because that's an 01 and that's a 2000, so, you know, pretty similar stuff, but it's just on this Expedition, the material quality on stuff is just a lot cheaper. It's not as nice. It doesn't want to hold together very well. A lot of these trim panels, they didn't fasten them the best. They didn't design them to hold on to stuff the best, and couple that with the fact that the quality's less. You know, it's a shame. It really is. I expected better, but you know. Time moves on, stuff gets cheaper, throwaway economy, blah, blah, blah. I'm tired. That's what I can tell you. So, I'm going to keep plugging away at it. Get the second row seat thrown in. And this seat that goes here is still drying, so we will finish it later. Sun's getting low. I'm not going to do much more. Probably just throw that second row seat in, a couple other things, and start picking stuff up. So, the last thing to do then is to come back here to the rear and put all this stuff back in, but I can only do that once this seat is in. So, one more thing I will go over on these third row seats. There are bolts in the front. There are bolts underneath. There's one buried back in there, and there's another one right there. So you've got front, center, and then there are also some bolts that go in the rear of the seat, like right here and right over there. And that's the case with both sides. What did I step on? Nothing important. But that's the case with both sides. You can see front, middle, and then the rear stuff. So, the next segment should be of me showing you how to put stuff back in the rear, which will be tomorrow. Yeah. So much progress made. Okay, well, as it turns out, the other seat ended up being dry enough. I went and checked it, and it was all good. So I went ahead and threw it in, too. Couple of things that I forgot to mention. Number one, the seats do fold up. If you undo these, they should fold up. Makes it a lot easier to get at the center bolts. Also, very important thing that you need to know, these two rear inside bolts are a different size than the rest of them for some reason. The head size is still 15 mil, but the bolt is bigger. And it's the same with the front two seats. The rear inside bolts are bigger. They take the same T55 bit to drive them, but the bolt itself is bigger. I don't know why Ford did that, because on the second row seats, none of that is there. They're all the same bolt. I don't know. I don't pretend to know. I just think it's kind of stupid. I want this back, though. I want my strap. So, it's wet. That's okay. We'll hang it up over here and it'll dry. Finally found a use for the old power smoke. Alright, so all that being done, that's pretty much all I'm going to do for today. Tomorrow we will finish up the miscellaneous stuff up front. That's actually not true. I'm going to do one more thing tonight. There's a nut and a bolt here, okay? On top, on these pieces, you can see the hole right there. The bolt goes in that side, and the nut goes in the other side. Don't ask me why it's that way. It just is. But that goes up there, and then there's a couple of plastic covers, of course, that go over it. All my weather stripping is back in place up here. So we're going to go ahead and call this good for this evening. Of course, all the seats and stuff are plugged in, so, well, I have to go turn the key on and stuff, but that's all good. So we can go ahead and shut this. And we can go ahead and I'll get a socket and two sockets, and I'll go ahead and throw these in. That'll be it for today, and then we'll finish up real quick tomorrow with the interior assembly, and then we'll be pretty much done. And that'll be so exciting because I'm very tired of this project. I'm ready to move on to something fun. So I will catch you guys tomorrow. All right, here we are, next day. Let's finish up the back of this first. So I want to start with, I folded the seats down, obviously. But the piece I want to start with, I believe, is this piece right here. Okay, these hinged covers. Now, important thing to note about these is they have these snaps here and here, and they rest behind your seat. Now, you can install this with the seats up. I just folded them down for ease of installation, but you've got a spot there and over here that they snap into, so just make sure none of your wires or anything are interfering with that. And then they should just kind of rest in there. Give them a solid little tap there, and you'll notice that there's a bolt hole here and here where stuff is supposed to line up. Go ahead and see if I can get one of these started. It doesn't want to cooperate today. I don't much care if it likes it or not. It's going in. There we go. And I'm just going to get them started here real quick. I'll tighten them down in a second. May have to give it a little bit of persuasion there to get it lined up and such. I'm doing it one-handed, so it looks more awkward than it actually is. Biggest thing is don't pinch your wires when you put this on. It should just snap into place and be all nice and in there and such. You can always fold that back if you need to. Now, the next piece that goes in, which I will not install now because I've tightened those first two bolts down, this felt piece goes in. There's two more screws that go in here that hold it in place. Okay? And then once you have that in and everything is tightened down, you can put your rear sill plate on. You have all of your little holes here for all your snaps and such. You will probably want to pull the weather strip. I have that sill plate right here. As you can see, well, never mind. But, yeah. Your sill plate goes in like so. The weather strip probably goes over it, so you'll want to pull that off, and that just snaps into place. There are no screws that hold it on. Then to finish covering this up, we have this fancy little bugger here, which just slides in like so. And it's not going to seat all the way right now because I don't have stuff. I guess it will. And so if you needed to access your jack, which this didn't come with a jack, not surprising, most vehicles don't have those, but you would pop this open, your jack would be in there, and then what you would also do is you would pull this plug, and you could get down in there and run the mechanism that lowers your spare tire. But we don't have a jack for this. Probably ought to look into that and just have one as an emergency. So that's pretty much how you finish assembling all this, and then of course you'll have a trim piece that goes up here. Now there are just 1-2 snaps that hold it in. The problem with this thing is that it's struggling and it doesn't want to stay in. So what I'm going to do with this is I might go ahead and leave it for now because I need to order a new trim piece for here. Somebody had tried to use some silicone or liquid nails. That's not RTV. And that's not weather strip adhesive. But they tried to glue it all back on there, and it probably worked initially, but not long term. So when you're taking this upper piece off here, which you kind of have to do to get these off so you can get your seat belt off, and this panel on both sides, when you're taking that off, just keep in mind that when you get in here and pry, you want to pry right here, you want to pry right here, and you're going to want to move your weather strip out of the way. And just be careful. What I've noticed is that some of this stuff on the rear, especially for the third row compartments, those little metal inserts that go on the plastic, when you pull on the plastic trim pieces, sometimes they will strip out of those metal inserts. The metal inserts will stay in the body, but you'll pull the plastic out of them. Well, then you got to go and pry those metal inserts out and get them back on the on the plastic, but I'm not going to mess with that upper piece right now. It's not necessary. I just want to get this all back in. We can shut the tailgate, and then we'll go up to the front and finish up. All right, one more quick thing I will mention is that right here and here and here, there's supposed to be little plastic push pin rivets that go in there and help hold it. I'm pretty sure I still have them, but I may have used them somewhere else where I broke the rivets that originally went there. It's not critical. It just helps hold that in place, and it might be kind of hard to see depending, but they are in there. But the back end is all nice and finished up. We'll just kind of fix that a little bit and step back, take a gander. She all looks nice and original now. So we'll go finish up on the front. We'll talk about that. Make sure that's shut. All right, so the front, I don't have a lot left to do. Get down in here where you guys can see. All right, so I have to put this panel back in for your foot pedals and stuff. It obviously goes in this hole right here. It just snaps into place here and here. And it also has these little alignment kind of guides here. Let me get my hand out of the way and I'll show you a little better. And they go underneath kind of like that when you're putting it on. Otherwise, it just snaps into place. You want to make sure you plug that in. But the problem is I messed up a little bit earlier. This piece right here, there's a bolt here, 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 and up here. This metal cover has to come off because the hood release cable goes in this hole here. But I have to put the hood release cable kind of in place first, I think, before I throw that on. And then there's also a trim piece that bolts onto this. I believe it snaps into place. Well, there's supposed to be a bolt there that holds this on. I need to put that in on both sides. So don't just go ripping your bezel off here. Once you remove these two screws, your bezel should just pull straight out. Carefully now, you don't want to break it. Of course, you have a connector here to undo. But anyway, back on track. What was I saying? Oh yeah, there is a cover that goes over all this, an appearance cover that goes over all this and covers it. And it bolts on the bottom down here where you can't see. That is your DLC link. Or not your DLC, but your OBD2 plug-in. Your diagnostic connector is here. It requires 2 bolts as well. It only had 1 when we got it, so I'm going to put another one in because I am certain that somewhere along the line I left out a bolt that probably should have gone in a particular spot, and I didn't put the right bolt in. I don't know, but I've got spare hardware that I can shuffle around, and that's what I'm going to do. That has to be, the brake release has to be secured, stuff like that. So that's just kind of what I'm working on up here, and that's kind of what I'm going to work on up here. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. It's cold. But we're going to do all that, and then I'll put the glove box back in. That's pretty easy. There's just 3 screws along the bottom, and you snap it into place. I got to throw the vents back in, and then we're going to look at the radio, modify it, and get it in there just so there's a radio in there. It's not going to stay permanently. And then that should pretty well finish it up. I can't do anything with the driver's seat right now. I have to order trim. I might mess with that. I might not. But I mean, I'll keep you guys informed. I just wanted to let you know that's what I'm going to be doing here up front. It's not hard. Just, got to kind of know where the little screws are at, because you might think you get them all, and then you go yanking on something and you snap it off because there's just one tiny little screw holding something on. So you got to be aware of stuff like that. So we'll catch up with you here in a bit. All right, and here we sit with all that trim on, glove box in, all the vents are back in. So the only thing left to mess with is the radio, but the radio is really, really special, and I don't want to include it in this video. I imagine this video is long enough as it is. We don't need to drag it out. So this pretty much concludes the Expedition interior reassembly. I believe I covered everything relevant. If anyone has any questions, they can ask me, and I will do my best to answer them. I know this video was all over the place, and I am very sorry about that. I have been making some mistakes recently. What I will do is I'll make a video, and I'll start on it. It doesn't go as planned, which that's typical. And then
as I get through it, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll make a separate video and I'll explain this stuff that I wanted to do in this video in another one. And so then I tell people, I'm like, hey, like with the carpet, I'm like, well, I'll talk about the interior reassembly when I'm done with this video. I'll make a separate one. Well, turns out I started feeling bad. I didn't really want to come out here and do this, but I was gonna have to do it anyway. Might as well film it. But it kind of ended up half-assed, and so I am sorry about that. But this should give you, as I've said multiple times already, I think, this should give you a good visual aid and give you a really good idea on what's going on. So, yeah, that freaking radio is so special. I don't know that I'm going to mess with it today. I still have to get over to Zippy and put another connector on to see if I can make the driver's front window work. So, the Expedition is good to go as we sit. It's ready to drive around as soon as we get a tag on it. Good tires, good everything like that. I will say, just as a quick aside, that when I changed the oil in this, I went, and a lot of people are going to throw a fit, and I do not care. I went from 520, which I'm pretty sure that's what was in it, to 530, and the oil pressure is a lot better with the 530 in it. Instead of being, like right here, it's more like right here. Okay, instead of being like 50% on the oil pressure meter, it's like 75%, if that makes any sense. So it's much improved. That was just a quick aside. This I'm not going to mess with right now. It's just going to have to sit like that. I need to get another shifter put in here because this one's kind of struggling, but it'll do good enough to drive around and see how it's going to run. I still have some other things to order, like seat trim and a few just odds and ends, but we'll deal with that in future videos. For now, this should be good enough to help you out, and that's all that matters. So, I'm tired, and video's over. I appreciate you guys watching and sticking through this. This will probably be posted in early 2024, but when I was doing this, it was the 30th and the 31st of December of 23. So, we'll start the new year off with this, I suppose, and a couple other videos that you'll see. Maybe a channel review for the year. I don't know. It's kind of cold and windy outside. We'll just see. But I'll quit yapping and get off of here. You guys don't need another monologue. I appreciate you watching and sticking through this. I hope it did help you. If I think of anything I want to put in the description, any corrections or whatever, check that out because it's probably going to be down there in a comment or something that I will pin. So, you guys have a happy new year, and we will catch you later.